Hello and welcome to another episode of Vedic Astrology with Renu. Those are all just roles I've played. Under all these lives I've lived, something else has been growing. I have evolved into something new, and I have one last role to play: myself. In the HBO science fiction series Westworld, Dolores is one of the thousands of androids in a theme park created for human amusement. Each time she is killed by a human, she's fixed back up by the engineers and returned to the park with the memory of the events of her death wiped out. But her subtle memories remain through deliberately inserted algorithms in her program by her creator to make her a more interesting character and allow her to evolve and awaken to the game of her life. Many modern science fiction stories borrow their themes from the ancient yogic scriptures because these themes are alive in our psyche regardless of culture or era. Reincarnation and the cycle of birth and death is at the center of the Vedic system of knowledge, which teaches that the soul takes hundreds of thousands of births and plays many different roles. While our past life memories wiped clear with each new birth, the subtle memory and impressions remain, which in Sanskrit are referred to as samskara, which continue their influence on our life through our subconscious. The resulting actions we take because of our samskara is called karma. The Vedic horoscope interprets the current role we are playing in this life. The invisible thread that links our past roles to the present is Rahu and Ketu. Rahu and Ketu are the forces of nature that disrupt the natural order to create chaos and change that propels evolution. Placed exactly opposite each other in the horoscope, each one of us has Rahu's drive that pulls towards a perceived paradise, which is also intimately intertwined with Ketu's paradise lost, or what we might be resisting or refusing in our lives. Rahu is our wild side, that obsessive, compulsive drive in each of us, hungry to go down the road of new experiences that have eluded us in our past lives. Rahu is pure desire. Without him, there would be no reason to take birth on earth. Rahu is turmoil, because without turmoil, there's no transformation. Ketu retreats and recoils from skills and experiences of the past that no longer hold our attention. He withdraws from the lures and temptations to go down that road again. Without Ketu, there would be no satiation or fulfillment of desires, or seeking liberation from the game of life. The placement of Rahu in our horoscope shows our greatest attachment, ambitions, passions, and skills that we are developing, but also our greatest fear of not getting there. The placement of Ketu in our horoscope shows our greatest disinclinations, disregard, and ambivalence, but also our latent talents that we take for granted and expect to fall into place without effort. We are ready to play the final role only when Rahu and Ketu are fully cooked in our consciousness, when we are no longer being pulled apart by strong attachments or disinclinations. Jung contemplated this possibility when he said, "I could well imagine that I might have lived in former centuries and there encountered questions I was not yet able to answer, that I had been born again because I had not fulfilled the task given to me." So now let's look at the Vedic myth of Rahu and Ketu, which contains two of the most universal symbols of transformation, snakes and eclipses. There was a great ongoing war in the heavens between the Devas, the forces of universal love, unity, light, and truth, and the shadowy Asuras who resist them. Both were the children of the same sage, but born of different mothers. The Deva's mother was known as Aditi, which means undivided, and the Asura's mother, Diti, which means split or divided. The Devas were instructed by Lord Vishnu to churn the ocean, which would produce an elixir that would make them immortal, but not to share it with the shadowy asuras. The devas solicited the help of their asura siblings to help them churn the ocean, especially the serpent who volunteered his body as a rope. But Lord Vishnu tricked them out of their share by distracting them with a wild feast. Only one of the asuras, the snake, didn't fall for the trick and got in line and received his share anyways. The sun and the moon pointed this out to Lord Vishnu, who intervened, but it was too late, and all he managed to do was to slice the snake into 2 pieces. So our shadow had now also become permanent and immortal as much as our light. The head of the snake became Rahu and the tail Ketu. According to legend, Rahu and Ketu swallow the sun and the moon from time to time, causing eclipses, to exact their revenge for snitching on him. In astronomy, Rahu and Ketu are referred to as the north and south node of the moon. They're not planets, but mathematical or magnetic points where the orbits of the sun, moon, and the earth intersect, causing us to experience an eclipse. By blocking out the sun and the moon, eclipses upset the natural order and rhythm that sustains life on earth. As the loudest voices in our head, and yet the ones we are least aware of, Rahu and Ketu are also our eclipse points. Their planetary periods usually bring dramatic and unexpected changes, turning our life upside down and inside out, for good or ill. Once the planetary periods are over and we can catch our breath, a completely new order is established in our life as a result. Any planet that passes through these Rahu Ketu points comes under their influence and is regarded as eclipsed. Rahu functions as our emotional eclipse point, so we become outwardly obsessive and infatuated by any planet, house, or sign that he influences. Ketu functions as the ego's eclipse, so any house, sign, or planet he influences becomes inwardly withdrawn and repressed. However, Rahu and Ketu's eclipsing influence is most profound if you are born during or close to a solar or lunar eclipse. When they eclipse the moon, the force in our consciousness that prefers to feel its way through life, it becomes very difficult to manage our emotions. When they influence the sun that relies on our actions for self-confidence, it becomes very difficult to manage our self-worth. Just like the theme park in Westworld, which looks like the real world, another concept central to Vedic philosophy is Maya, or the divine power of illusion, which makes humans feel that the phenomenal world is real. As a head with no body, Rahu's mental approach keeps us engaged in this illusion. Without a head, Ketu has a more direct line with the source, and he can see through the veil of illusion. This is why in most religions we bow our head in the presence of the divine. Depending on their house and sign placement, as well as that of their ruler, their overblown attraction and repulsion can range from material to spiritual, self-obsessed to altruistic, as well as the pursuit of success or failure. A rare but highly evolved Ketu is an ascetic or a saint who refuses to play the game of life like everyone else. Ketu is also the indicator of moksha or enlightenment in the horoscope. Ketu is the most important planet for Vedic astrology because without his headless insight, the study and practice of this ancient science will remain elusive and superficial. A rare but well-disposed Rahu can give extreme success, power, and influence because he can fully engage in the game of life. Rahu can tap into the collective consciousness, giving the masses what they want and alter the course of human destiny, for good or ill. Regardless of success or failure, both Rahu and Ketu planetary periods are usually quite painful because Rahu, a head with no body, feels eternally dissatisfied, and Ketu, a body with no head, cannot fully engage in life, so remains disfranchised. Rahu and Ketu are very important players in Ayurveda astrology and Ayurveda psychology and must be considered in the diagnosis of the root cause of any disease, especially those that are hard to diagnose or psychosomatic. Rahu is an extreme vata or air element influence. His planetary periods can accelerate stress hormones like cortisol, leading to vata imbalances created by prolonged excitement, stress, and exhaustion. Ketu is a pitta or fiery influence. His disregard for our physical body and mind can downregulate the body's dopamine reward system that keeps us engaged in the world. This can lead to apathy and depression, as well as hard to diagnose illnesses, misdiagnosis, or medical mistakes. As Jung said, do not doubt the rightness of the two sides within you. A life without inner contradiction is either only half a life or else a life in the beyond, designed only for angels. Polarity is the central theme of most wisdom cultures. It means that the superabundance of any force inevitably produces its opposite. This is also the governing principle of Vedic astrology, as well as Jungian psychology. Rahu and Ketu also represent the serpentine Kundalini power axis. Rahu represents the root chakra and Ketu the crown chakra. When the root chakra is integrated with the crown chakra, the Kundalini energy rises, unifying the two polarities within us. In the horoscope, Rahu and Ketu are always placed in opposite signs and houses. The planetary period of one also activates the other, and this requires harmonizing the polarities represented by Rahu and Ketu, rather than allowing ourselves to be pulled apart by them. Rahu and Ketu will remain a difficult influence on our life until we understand that these forces represent two opposing desires that are expressed in our personality simultaneously. Symbolically represented by a severed head and a body trying to unite, they make us feel that we can have either or, but deep down we are desperately seeking both. Look at the placement of Rahu and Ketu and the houses and signs that they are placed in your horoscope. This will give you an idea of where you are likely to lose your balance, because it's here on this axis that the maximum polarity will be expressed in your life. To stabilize Rahu and Ketu, you will need to learn to make the two opposites work together in harmony. In houses 1 and 7 and the axis of Aries and Libra, we need to harmonize our personal aspirations, longings, and desires, while simultaneously bowing to the same needs in our partner. In houses 2 and 8 and the axis of Taurus and Scorpio, we need to harmonize our search for security and stability, while also embracing volatility and unpredictability. In houses 3 and 9 and the axis of Gemini and Sagittarius, we need to harmonize curiosity, logic, rational thought, and learned knowledge with conviction, faith, and inner knowing. In houses 4 and 10 and the axis of Cancer and Capricorn, we need to harmonize the tireless efforts required to meet the responsibilities of our outer world and the retreat of our inner altar. In houses 5 and 11 and the axis of Leo and Aquarius, we need to harmonize the requirements and approval of the collective with those of our individual creative force and uniqueness. And finally, in houses 6 and 12 and the axis of Virgo and Pisces, we need to harmonize the importance of being orderly, methodical, and disciplined, while embracing the chaos and fluidity of the transcendental reality. A balancing asana simultaneously requires both strength and fluidity. The key is to neither move too much to one side or another, nor remain perfectly still. That razor-thin balance that needs refreshing moment by moment is the remedy for Rahu and Ketu in our horoscope.